What's up, everybody? Let's Talk Jets Radio. Thank you to everybody that joined us on the live stream today. What an absolute kick in the balls that game was, just the ending of it. And I'll start with all the positives, just before we get to the end, ripping the play calling, the communication, and everything else that Saleh was going on about in his press conference. First 58 minutes, there were so many positives to take away from this game, especially on the offensive side of the ball. When you factor in your top three receivers were all out, you had, I think it was three starting offensive linemen that are out, your top two tight ends, top two running backs, when Carter went down with the concussion. So many guys. You lose Fant during the game. All these guys go down. And Zach Wilson was making play after play, just throwing absolute piss missiles all over the field. And even LaFleur motioned all over the place. Berrios was making plays. I think he's absolutely earned a contract at this point. So you loved everything that you saw from the offensive side of the ball. Vera Tucker, he was getting downfield on some blocks. Even Feeney was making some blocks. You had Austin Walter, who filled in, who was doing a good job getting some yards after contact. So everything offensively looked good. Fourth quarter, the first two drives, they obviously stalled out a little bit, the back-to-back 3-and-outs, but then they still had the ball with 7.5 minutes left and an opportunity to close it out. And they sustained a drive for 5 minutes. We'll get to the 4th and 2 a little bit later. But for the most part, offensively going up against a Super Bowl defense, you got to be proud of that. Defensively, again, you're facing a Super Bowl quarterback, one of the best quarterbacks to ever do it, probably the best quarterback to ever do it. So you weren't going to shut him out. He was going to put up his points, which he did. There was a lot of bend but don't break, which I think we kind of expected. But towards the end of the game, I think we all wanted to see a little bit more aggressiveness. Don't sit on the lead. Don't just sit there and play prevent defense. You give credit to Echols for making the pick. I mentioned during the live stream, it seems like his eyes are always locked on the quarterback. He always gets his head turned around. He makes plays on the ball, which is good. Sucks that he got hurt at the end. Sucks that we don't have a pass rush at all. Again, the injury to Carl Lawson, I think, really hurt things there. They cannot get a pass rush with four guys. It seems like they have to send somebody. I know they got the one sack with who was it that came in on the blitz? I'm already forgetting. Michael Carter was coming in off the blitz as an edge. I think Quincy Williams also got there too. So when you did blitz, guys were getting in there. It just didn't seem like they were doing it all that much. I don't know if it was again just trying to play prevent, not allow Brady to make some chunk plays, but he was still doing that anyway. So. I'll get to the negative part, which sucks right now. And again, in the grand scheme of things, does a win today make a big difference? Maybe, maybe not. I personally think this win would have had a lot more value than last week, where you beat up a decimated Jaguar team that was probably in worse shape than you are. Again, it was a 1 yard difference. It wasn't even like you blew them out or anything. So it was just kind of like, all right, we won the game. It's a good feel-good moment, but do you carry it over? And that's why I was so impressed with what they did in the first half. You had a lead. Everybody was playing well, especially offensively, but the defense, they were still holding their own. You had so many reasons to be excited. You had all these young guys that are making progress closing out the year, and you're starting to get your hopes up thinking, we might get a win against a Super Bowl team, and this is a nice stepping stone for us, for a young team that's been struggling all year. This would be nice to be able to go into that locker room and say we beat a legitimate team that was full strength for the most part. They had a couple injuries, but certainly not more than what we're going through, and they had plenty of weapons out there. Antonio Brown obviously didn't make it to the end, but just getting to those final 2 minutes, and I don't understand what Saleh was trying to say in his press conference about the communication with the 4th and 2 call. So apparently he was trying to make it out to be like the end around that they called to Berrios was one of their short package calls, which is usually 4th and 1 or less, where Zach Wilson always has the opportunity to tuck it and run for a quarterback sneak if he sees that it's there. Now, if you look at the line of scrimmage, Bucks had the line stacked. They had three guys right in the middle. So I don't know what Zach could have saw to think he could have snuck it, but you just called a timeout. So for a rookie quarterback who might have that in his head that I can quarterback sneak it, why wouldn't that be one of the first things that you communicate to him? And for Saleh to not only throw his quarterback under the bus, which he did about 3 different times in multiple answers about that last drive and that last play call, but he also threw LaFleur under the bus too, as far as the communication. They asked him, who's responsible for communicating that? And he said it's LaFleur to Wilson. So again, what does Coach Saleh do exactly? When that play call comes in, 4th and 2, end around, okay, you know that your quarterback has it in his head that he might be able to quarterback sneak it in that package. Why don't you say, hey, this is an end around no matter what? Communicate. And I'll give him some credit for at least acknowledging it at the end of the game. He said it starts with us. We have to be better for our players. The communication has to be better. Now we got to start seeing it. It's not week 2. It's not week 3 anymore. We're in week 16. Or week 17. This was the 16th game you've played already. Certain things like this, you guys should have figured out already. And even worse probably than the 4th and 2, I still thought they should have taken a field goal. If this was a meaningful game, if this was a playoff game, and you're facing a Hall of Fame quarterback and he's going to get the ball back with 2 minutes, I'd much rather have the opportunity to play for overtime in that situation versus him beating you in that situation. Maybe that's the conservative call, but maybe I would have looked at it differently if it was 4th and inches, 4th and 1, but 4th and 2, that was a big risk right there. And again, just giving Brady the ball back with 2 minutes, we saw what happened. And when you sit back and you play prevent, you get what you ask for. I'm sorry. We've seen this with our defenses so many times throughout the years. Even Rex Ryan, when we had some good defenses there, those playoff teams, it always seemed like whenever it was an important drive, an important play late in the game, fourth quarter, they never seemed like they can get off the field when it really mattered. And that's what we've seen a lot, from the Jets defense this year. And you could even point to the 3rd and 20. I thought that was a huge momentum swing. You could point to the Keelan Cole drop earlier in the game. That was a momentum swing. But ultimately, at the end of the game, you had an opportunity to not only get a first down and close it out with some kneel downs, or to have your defense get off the field. With 2 minutes left, Bucs had no timeouts left, and they still go 9 plays, 93 yards in under 2 minutes. Absolutely embarrassing. I don't know how you sit there and just allow him to pick you apart like that. And his answer is about we wanted to keep him in bounds and play the time possession game. To me, that's not all gas, no break. That's not the mantra that you tried to sell us on. So, long story short, and this video probably sounds negative, I'm actually still feeling pretty good about this game. The camaraderie, the energy that you saw on the sidelines, on top of all the injuries that they had, I think it speaks volumes that this coaching staff hasn't lost these players yet, and that you are seeing young guys that are progressing, that are going to be here next year with another year in the system, which I think is important. You're seeing the offensive coordinator do some nice things. But it's just frustrating as hell to lose another game that you should have won, especially to Tom Brady in our home stadium, allowing him to do that like that. And just, again, some of the explanations at the end just don't really make sense. So I'm happy for the players that, that did play well, that made progress. Zach Wilson, this was arguably his best game as a pro. He looked phenomenal throughout, the first 3 quarters. And, most of what went wrong in the 4th quarter really wasn't on him. And he still, engineered that drive at the end where, they should have at least had 3 points, if not the first down. So a lot to complain about, in those final 2 minutes, but for the most part, 58 minutes, you went toe-to-toe with the Super Bowl contender, and, I think that's more important. So thank you guys again for tuning in for the live stream. Appreciate it. Talk to you tomorrow.